Hey, what's up, everybody? So I got a 2007 Lexus GS 350, and we're doing the intake manifold, no, fuel injectors. Now, the way to check for the fuel injectors to see if there's a problem, you want to crank up the car, and then you take a stethoscope that has like a needle on the end of it, and then stick it on the fuel injector, and you should hear it tapping, like ticking, and it'll go tick, 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 tick. Every time it ticks, that's the fuel injector firing. So if you don't hear it ticking, that means your fuel injector is not working. Uh, Two things before starting this job. So if you're just gonna replace one fuel injector, I always recommend replacing all the O-rings because you have to take off the fuel rail. So when you take off the fuel rail, you know, a lot of times the O-rings, they'll break. They just will lose their integrity if you have it, because the gas kind of breaks down the rubber. So always replace all of the fuel injector O-rings. Even if you're just going to replace one fuel injector, always do the O-rings, all of them. Another thing is, if you're going to take out the intake manifold, on this one you have to always replace the intake manifold gasket. So those two things. Toughest part about this job probably is just you just got like a hidden bolt behind the intake manifold. Other than that, it's a pretty simple, straightforward job. So I didn't see anybody else make a video, except this one guy. He's just doing too much. So let me show you how to do this the quick and easy way. Let's go out to the car. Let's make it happen. All right, so all you gotta do is pull your cover off, and there's your fuel injectors right here. It's 1, 2, 3. Then you got 1, 2, 3 up under here. This rail goes around like this, curves around, so you gotta take the intake manifold off. You got some Allen heads. Those are 5mm Allen heads. You got 4 of those on the inside, and then you got 1 10mm each on the outside. And then you should have like 2 bolts in the back on a bracket that goes to the back of the block. And then we'll have to take off, we're gonna remove the intake, and I'll try to take off the throttle body with the intake manifold. And then once you get this off, we might have to take a strut brace off too, 14mm on each side. We put the strut brace off, move it to the side. So start working on this right here and see all what we gotta take off with it. Okay, so I think the best way to do this, I want to take these off right here. You gotta take off this little pipe, this air vacuum line, that goes down there. That goes actually right here. That hooks up there. This is 10mm right here. So take off this right here, disconnect your pipe right here, take up the 10, take up the plug here, pop these clips off. Move that to the side. This right here plugs into your mass airflow sensor. Scoop that out. I went ahead and unplugged my throttle body. This right here, move that hose to the side. So here, do I want to take off these 3 lines or just take off these 10mm bolts? I think I'm gonna just take off the 10mm bolts, move that throttle body, just hang it to the side, and then I can pull this up. Also, that's your manifold runner connector. Disconnect that. Okay, so I just took off the 10mm bolts, set it to the side. Good idea to replace that gasket. Then I was able to just pull it up, keep it low, and I still got this hose connected. I still got these hoses connected. I'm gonna just flip it over. Here's your intake manifold gaskets. Good idea to replace those. We're gonna clean this up right here. We start disconnecting the fuel injectors, and what's holding the fuel rail on is these 14mm bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them. And then I can pull up the fuel rail. I think I can just leave all this connected, and then I can just swap out the fuel injectors at that point. Okay, so yeah, there's 5mm bolts. I mean, 12mm. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Before you take this off, good idea to blow compressed air around this area before you take it off. Boom. There you go. Make sure you don't drop nothing down to the intake. Also, it's a good idea to cover these up. So now you can, all you gotta do is pull your fuel injectors out, just like that. See, some of it got stuck. See, some of them get stuck in here. Make sure you get the O-rings out and down in there too. What you're gonna do, pull these off, put the new ones in. Make sure they got O-rings on them. What I mean by O-ring is this one, that one, this one, that one. So up and lower. So I'm gonna just snatch these off. Some of it might need a little venting. Just kind of wiggle them out, you know, without breaking it. See, the O-ring fell out. So I'm gonna just pull them all out. I'm gonna clean down the hill, clean up hill, and then get these ready for reinstallation. All right, so you know, you put them on, make sure the electrical connectors are oriented the right way. Clean out down inside, you know what I'm saying, your holes where it go in. And you know, these ain't in there tight. What's holding it in is the pressure from these bolts on the top. So we're just gonna slide it up there, make sure you don't drop nothing down to the motor. Probably need 2 hands for this. So I'll line it up right. So I'm gonna do line this up, drop it in there, put the bolts back on, clean that up, bolt this back on, put your throttle body back on, irritate, and that's it. Pretty simple for this one. And there was no, somebody might have already took it off, but there was no bolt for the back bracket on this one, but usually it's right there. You got this one right here and one right there. So these on the back. You know what I'm saying? But these are 2 bolts. That's the hardest to get to. It's like 12mm. Yeah. Alright, so the most important thing that you do at this point, once you put your rail back on, make sure that these are plugged in. I've done that before. Put an intake manifold back on and realized that the fuel injector wasn't plugged in. Also, at this point, you could turn the key like to the on position, like 1, 2 clicks, and then you can see if it's squirting out any gas right now and fix it right now. I'm quite confident that it's not gonna leak. I've done this a couple times. So just make sure those injectors are plugged in, then make sure that this was routed correctly. So you want that like right here, and then you can put your intake manifold on and then button all down. That's the most important thing to do right now. Okay, so put these bolts back in here. Like I said, you gotta make sure that this is routed right. Slap that back on. Don't forget to put your pipe on here, your vacuum line. Bolt these down, plug it in. This is gonna go there. Plug that in. Plug this into your mass airflow sensor. Just tighten it on down. Boom, you're done. Now, most important thing you do, first thing you want to do, as soon as you crank it up, come out here, make sure it's not leaking. If it's leaking, then I have to take this back off, go back in, and figure out what the problem is. Okay, this is a 2007 Lexus ES 350 fuel injector replacement.